I led them with cords of kindness, with the bands of love. And I became to them as one who eases the yoke on their jaws, and I bent down to them and fed them.
Shalom, shalom. How we doing, folks? It's Brother Tim for Something to Chew On coming at you. Going to do a little video. Hopefully this one won't be too long. But before I start, I'm going to throw this one out there for everybody. For everybody who was wondering where I went and what happened or whatever, a ministry was donated a new computer, and it had some software on it. The gentleman that donated it, he pre-installed some software for me. Now, the software is free. It's OBS. If anybody's interested, send me a message or whatever, and I'll let you know. But you can find it on the internet to download for free. But he's kind of giving me some instructions, and I've been kind of watching some tutorials. I've been reading about it, so I'm trying to learn how to use this. So if it doesn't look all that great, I apologize in advance. I'm still learning this. Okay. But we want to say praise y'all for the new computer and the new software and everything. Hopefully this is going to allow us to make, some better quality videos. Some of you who've been watching me do my test videos, because I've made a few of them public, and I've gotten feedback or whatever. And I think I got all the kinks worked out. But if not, just let me know. And we're going to continue to learn and grow in the software, just like we're going to do in Messiah. But with that, I'm going to do a video today on something that come up. I'm going to take these off for right now. It come up in the tool portion this week, and it deals with when the Master in the Sermon on the Mount, he says he did not come to destroy or abolish the law, but to fulfill it. And the other day, on Facebook, me and a lady were commenting back and forth, and, I basically said, look, I said, fulfill doesn't mean what you think it means, probably what you've been taught it means. I said, it means something completely different. I said, go back and do a deep study. I said, read through the law, the Torah, the instructions of Yah, the first 5 books, and gain a real good understanding of that. Then go read the Sermon on the Mount, and you'll see what fulfill means. Now, I've done a video about, the concept of fulfilling the law in the past, and that's in the description to this. Now, that's one of my older videos before I had the software, before I had, the studio with the background and all that I'm using today. So, bear in mind, it's an older video, but it's got some good information in it. And like I say in the beginning of the video, it was one of the first times I tried to put all that information that was floating around in my head into a video. It's the first time I ever tried to vocalize it. So, I kind of jump around a lot, but it is a good video. I went back just recently and watched it in preparation for making this. But anyway, with all that said, let's just jump over here. Now, I'm going to say this. Ideally, I should be doing this with 2 screens, 2 monitors. So, but because I don't have 2 monitors at the time, I'm planning on getting one. All my programs are overlapped on this one monitor. So it's kind of confusing to me. I'm having to do multiple things, but it's all overlapped. For those who use a desktop or laptop, you know what I mean when you say the windows are all overlapped. So I'm having to fumble through them, and then the software, I'm having to do all these little scene transitions manually. So if I mess something up, show me some grace. Be patient with me. Like I say, I'm still learning. But anyway, with that, we're going to click over here, and we're going to go to this Bible view I got set up, and that's when we're going to start. We're going to go to Matthew Matthew 5, chapter 5, first off. Start at verse 17. We're just going to read this one verse. And I've got it set right now to the King James Version. And many of you out there will know what this software is. This is eSword. It's a free program you can download and install directly on the hard drive of your computer. And it allows you, as you can see here, it allows you to get many different translations of the Bibles. You can get different commentaries, different dictionaries. It's a very good study tool, being the fact that it's free. That's what, I like about it. And plus, like I tell everybody, I said it's installed on your hard drive. So especially like if you're using a laptop and say you go somewhere like your cabin in the woods and you have no internet. Well, guess what? All this stuff's on your hard drive, so you don't need an internet connection. Unlike some of these other, like Blue Letter Bible web page, you got to be connected to the internet to be able to use it. Or like on your phone, you got to be able to be connected to the internet. But that's one reason I like this. It's free, and you don't have to be connected to the internet. But anyway, with that, let's start. We're going to read this one verse right here. Matthew 5:17 from the King James. It says, "Think not that I have come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill." I'm going to say one thing right there. Notice how he's putting destroy and fulfill at opposite ends of the spectrum. There's a dichotomy. So that right there should tell you that the two do not mean the same thing. Most people will think, well, he fulfilled it, therefore I do not have to. Well, ain't that the same thing as saying destroy or abolish the law? Anyway, if you want more information on that or the rest of these verses, 18, 19, and 20, and me breaking those down, you can see the link to the other video in the description. That's the one where I talk about all of that. I'm not going to go into all that today, but I am going to point something out. Just basic information. This word fulfill, let's look it up in the Strong's Concordance, and let's see what it means according to Strong's. Okay? I'm going to go up here and click on this. Should already be pulled up. Yes, here it is. That's going to be Strong's number G4137. Here's how it looks in the Greek. This is how you would pronounce it. Pleroo, however you want to pronounce that. Pleroo. There you go. All right. But this is the definition right here. It says to make, and notice I've highlighted what it means. Now, it does have all these other optional, other meanings that it can mean when it's used in other places in the scripture. And now I ain't going to say most, but some people, it's defined as the way some people define it. And don't get me wrong, I see that. But when you read it in context, you realize that it can't mean that. It cannot mean that. And that's one thing I'm going to point out today. Okay, but it says right here, to make replete, that is literally to cram, as in a net. Level up, as in a hollow spot in the earth, or a hole. Or figuratively, to furnish or imbue, diffuse, influence. All right, then it says this, satisfy, execute in office. Finish. See, some people would think it means finish. This word does, but not in this context. A period or a task. Verify or coincide with a prediction, etc. Accomplish. Well, it does mean that. Yeshua did accomplish the law, meaning he kept it. But that doesn't mean we don't have to. Just because he did, don't mean we didn't have to. We don't have to. All right. Complete. See, some people think, well, he completed it, so I don't have to. I don't have to. All right. Let's keep reading though. End. There's one. Expire. Right here. Fill up, fulfill, to make, full, come, fully preach. Fully preach. That's what this word means in the context of Matthew chapter 5. Okay? All right, now let's go back to the Bible view. Okay. Now, like I said, all these verses 18, 19, and 20, I covered them in the other video, so I'm not going to go over that again. But I've said this like I said in the beginning, I told that lady, if you would go back and read your Torah and understand it, and then bring that understanding into the New Testament, things start to make a lot of sense. I tell people this all the time. In order to better understand what the writers of the New Testament wrote, you might want to understand better what they read. And what they read were the scriptures. Anytime in the New Testament when it refers to the scriptures, it's talking about the Old Testament. They didn't have the New Testament at the time. So when they say scriptures in historical context, that can only mean the Tanakh, the Old Testament, the Torah, the writings, and the prophets. Okay, now, this is what I tell people. He says he came to fulfill the law. And the Sermon on the Mount, some of y'all have heard me say this before, some of you haven't. You may have heard this somewhere else. You may not, don't know. But I'm going to show you. He tells us right here, he didn't come. The Sermon on the Mount starts with the Beatitudes, and then he goes to your light, your salt. I didn't come to abolish, but to fulfill. And then the rest of the Sermon on the Mount is him fulfilling the law, fully preaching it. A lot of people don't get that. They don't understand that that's what he does. He basically expounds on what was in the law. He fully preaches it. Excuse me. I just ate lunch. I'm sorry. He fully preaches it to its full, brings a full understanding of it, levels it up, crams it full. All the different definitions there. But okay, like I said, he says that, and then he goes into actually doing it. And most people miss this. Now I'm going to just read these verses. You see where I've got them highlighted. I highlighted them so I'd be able to see them easier and read them. Maybe I can do this without my glasses. I don't know. But this is, like I said, this is King James. Matthew 5:21. The Master says, "Ye have heard that it was said by them of old time, Thou shalt not kill. And whosoever shall kill shall be in danger of judgment." Now we all recognize that's one of the 10 commandments. That would be from Exodus chapter 20 and or Deuteronomy chapter 5. That's where it comes from. Makes sense? And then he goes on and he says a lot of other things. Now let's just read some of this. I'm going to point out some things, and then we're going to look at some other scriptures. But Matthew 5:22, he says, "But I say unto you that whosoever is angry with his brother without cause shall be in danger of judgment. And whosoever shall say to his brother, Raka, shall be in danger of the council," or the Sanhedrin. "But whosoever shall say, Thou fool, shall be in danger of hellfire." 23. Oops. Let's leave it right there. Verse 23. "Therefore, if thou bring thy gift to the altar, and there rememberest thou that thy brother have aught against thee, leave there thy gift before the altar, and go thy way. First be reconciled to thy brother, then come and offer thy gift." Does that sound familiar to anybody? Let's just keep reading. Verse 25. "Agree with thine adversary quickly, whilst thou art in the way with him, lest at any time the adversary deliver thee to the judge, and the judge deliver thee to the officer, and thou be cast into prison. Verily I say unto thee, thou shalt by no means come out thence till thou hast paid the uttermost farthing." Now see, a lot of people don't realize, they recognize thou shalt not kill, and they say, oh, that's one of the 10 commandments, but they don't recognize that the rest of this is coming directly from the law itself, the Torah, the instructions of Yah. And sadly, it's because people don't know what their Torah says. They don't read that. They think it's done away with. They think it's fulfilled. But if they know that this information is in the Torah, then they see that Yeshua is preaching this to us full. Right here in verse 23, It says, therefore, if thou bring thy gift to the altar, and there rememberest thou that thy brother hath aught against thee, leave there thy gift before the altar, and go thy way. First be reconciled to thy brother, and then come and offer thy gift. Like I said, this come up in the Torah portion this week. So let's go back and look and see what this is talking about. We're going to go back to Leviticus. Oh, that's the wrong direction. Wait a minute. We'll get it up here. There it is. Leviticus chapter 6. And I'm going to read this. I'm going to read all this. But I'm only going to talk about a little piece of it. It says, if a soul sin and commit a trespass against Yahweh, or Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, however you want to pronounce it, and lie unto his neighbor in that which was delivered him to keep, or in fellowship, or in a thing taken by violence, or hath deceived his neighbor, or hath found that which was lost, and lieth concerning it, and sweareth falsely in any of these that a man doeth, sinning therein. Verse 4. Then it shall be, because he hath sinned and is guilty, that he shall restore that which he took violently away, or the thing which he had deceitfully gotten, or that which was delivered to him to keep, or the lost thing which was found. Basically what it's saying is that if you which he took violently away, you stole something, the thing which he deceitfully gotten, you got it deceitfully. You could have outright stole it, you could have tricked the man to get it, whatever. Or that which was delivered him to keep, meaning he received stolen property, basically. Or the thing lost which he found. Meaning, you know your neighbor lost something and you find it, but you keep it instead of giving it back. See what I'm saying? Okay. Verse 5, it says, or all that about which he hath sworn falsely, he shall even restore it in the principal, and shall add the fifth part thereunto, and give it unto him to whom it appertaineth, and the day of his trespass offering. What it's saying is that if you've taken something, stole something, whatever, you've got to give it back or pay for, like, for those of us out there who've ever been arrested and stolen something, a lot of times you've got to return the property, or if it's been damaged or lost or whatever, you got to pay for it. And that money goes to whoever you stole. But the judge will also order, what do they call it? Not reparations. But you know what I'm saying? They're going to make you pay it back. Well, here it's saying you got to give, if it costs $100, you got to pay them $100 plus a fifth part of that, which is 20%. So you would have to pay them back $120. But if you still got the property, you just give them the property, then you got to give them 20% on top, a fifth on top of it. That's your recompense, so to speak. Your penance, I guess, would be the term. Do you see that? Okay. All right. Then right here in verse 6, it says, he shall bring his trespass offering unto the Lord, a ram without blemish out of the flock, and with thy estimation from a trespass offering unto the gift. Now let's look at this in another translation. I'm going to go to the Scriptures version 2000, and we're going to look at this. And I want to read this again. But we're going to read the whole thing again. It says, when any being sins and committed a trespass against Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh and has lied to his neighbor about a deposit or about a pledge or about a robbery, or shall extort from his neighbor, or has found what was lost and has lied concerning it, or did swear falsely, so that he sins in regard to any one of these that a man does, then it shall be, when he sins and shall be guilty, that he shall return what he took by robbery, or what he extorted, or the deposit which was deposited with him, or the lost item which was found, or all that about which he swore falsely. He shall repay its total value. See, the King James has it all worded funny because, it's English from 400 years ago and we don't talk that way anymore. But it says right here, he shall repay its total value, add 1/5 more to it, and give it to whom it belongs, on the day of his guilt offering. Notice the next 3 words. Then he brings his guilt offering to Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, a ram, a perfect one from the flock with your valuation, and as a guilt offering to the priest. Notice this word, then he brings his guilt offering. So because the way that's worded, basically what it's saying is, you got to do all this first. You got to repay to the person you stole from first. You got to add the 1/5 to it first. Then you take your offering to be made right. First you made right with your brother, then you make it right with Yah. Does that make sense? Now let's go back to that verse in Matthew. And let's look at that again. We're going to go back to the King James. Let's read this again. Therefore, if thou bring thy gift to the altar, and there rememberest that thou brother has aught against thee, leave there thy gift before the altar, and go thy way first. Be reconciled to thy brother, and then come and offer thy gift. Do you see how what the master is preaching right here in the Sermon on the Mount comes directly from the law? Now here's the key part. I'm going to ask you a question. This is for anyone who thinks the law's done away with, or anyone who thinks that we only should have to obey the 10 Commandments. That's who I'm speaking specifically to right now. I'm going to ask a question. If the Torah is done away with, or if we're only to obey the 10 Commandments, then why is the master preaching this, which is from the Torah, but it's not from the 10 Commandments? Now, once you get over your cognitive dissonance, hear me out. It's because the Torah is not done away with. We're still supposed to obey these things. Like I've said, and like I'm sure you've heard many people say. People will say, love God and love your neighbor. You're right. Or, love God and love your neighbor. All the prophets hang on these 2. You're right, they do. Hang on those 2. As I've said, I'm sure you've heard it before, the Torah is nothing more than detailed instructions on how to obey those 2. Love Yah, love your neighbor. They're detailed instructions on how to obey the Ten Commandments. Because the Torah itself is love. It shows us how to love Yah and to love our neighbors. Now, keep that in mind when you read through these passages in the New Testament that say, the love is the fulfillment of the law. Yep, it is. Because the law is detailed instructions on how to love. And he goes on in verse 25. And we'll just read these last two verses. He says, and agree with thine adversaries quickly while thou art in the way with him, lest at any time the adversaries deliver thee to the judge, and the judge deliver thee to the officer, and thou be cast into prison. Verily, I say unto thee, thou shalt by no means come out thence, till thou hast paid the othermost farthing. See, these last two verses, especially this very last one, that would be the master preaching it to its fullest. Because at the time, historically and culturally, when he was talking to those people, they knew the Torah, the instructions. They knew that it said these things, that we're supposed to give the property back or pay the value of the property, and then add a fifth or 20% to it. But the law in that section right there in Leviticus, it doesn't say anything about you going to prison. But he's just pointing out, he just fulfilling it. He's just preaching out a little bit to the full, saying, because if you don't, you're going to end up in prison and you're going to have to pay it from there. You see what I'm saying? So, like I said, the whole point of this was, what does fulfill mean? Like I said, if you want to know, back up here, 17 through 19 verses here. Let's scroll up. Or 17 through 20. These verses right in here, 18, 19, and 20. Watch the other video on YouTube. And I break that down. And then I go into some other things. But for those who say the Torah's done away with, or we only have to obey the Ten Commandments, do you not just see? And it's sad. And hey, I'm one of them. I used to think that way. But when I started learning what the law said, these things like this started making sense. I started going, hey, he's preaching straight from the law. And it's not the Ten Commandments. So that right there should tell you, yeah, we got to obey the law. And not just the Ten Commandments. Like I said, the law is detailed instructions on how to love Yah and how to love your neighbor. So, with that, folks, think about it. And for anybody watching, I post the daily Torah portion every day on my page. Y'all willing, I'll get it up there. But, as I said, in order to understand what they wrote, to better understand what the Master was talking about, or what the New Testament writers were writing about, you might want to understand what they read, where they were coming from. The Tanakh, the Torah first, and then the writings and the prophets, or what we would call the historical books and the prophets, because they're always referring back to it. And there's a lot of places, I know this from experience, that quote unquote our study Bibles, they don't tell you. If it's not a direct quote from the Old Testament, it doesn't tell you, hey, this is pertaining to such and such in the Old Testament. And if you don't know, then you will never realize that the concept they're dealing with is coming from the Old Testament. That's why I say, people, read that Old Testament. Read that Old Testament and understand it. And then you begin to better and more fully understand the New Testament. So I just figured I'd throw that out there, something for you guys to chew on. And that's really all I got today. But like I say there all the time, don't just read this thing, study it.
Like and share our videos. Comment below, good or bad. Give us ideas for new videos. But above all, pray for us and subscribe to the channel. It'll be a little circle icon with a cow's face on the bottom right hand of the screen. And with that, I say shalom, and don't just read your Bibles, but study them.